Hi there, this is Pat. I will be one of your instructors for ITNET 159. ITNET 159 is going to be half PowerShell and half cloud. I'm responsible for the PowerShell piece and Tony's responsible for the cloud piece. So the intent of the screencast here is to cover the same kind of content that I would do in the first week of a face-to-face class. So we're going to look at the syllabus, we'll look at the assignments, and I'll talk a little bit about PowerShell as well. So with that, let's get started. As far as course materials go, you see that we have that we're using a book for the PowerShell piece called Learn PowerShell in a Month of Lunches, the third edition. It's available at our bookstore. It's also online too. So I was just looking around before I hit the record button here, and it looks like you can get the book off Amazon right now for $40. I did take a quick peek on eBay and I saw a couple copies for $25. So they're out there. I bought mine, and they sent me a PDF as well. So I have the PDF here. This is kind of what your book should look like. Here's the cover. There you go. Learn PowerShell in a Month of Lunches. I really like this book because the author's intended audience, and you'll see this as you read chapters 1 and 2, but his intended audience is network administrators that are trying to learn PowerShell to automate their jobs. So it really seems perfect. The audience seems perfect for you as a student in the network specialist program. There's a lot to PowerShell you're going to find out, and we're just going to scratch the surface this semester, but I think it'll definitely give you an appreciation of what you can do with PowerShell, and hopefully you'll walk away being able to automate some tasks on the job. All right, let's jump back to the Blackboard site. Tony's got a couple resources for you too. He has a PDF that you're going to read, and also he has you signing up for a Udemy account that walks through AWS. I think, God darn it, I took the class on AWS. It's like Amazon Web Essentials or something like that, Web Service Essentials. Anyways, 50% cloud, 50% PowerShell, and these are the resources that you're going to use for those. Real quickly, and I've got some videos you're going to watch that will hopefully get you pretty excited about wanting to learn PowerShell. But if I had just to say, why I think PowerShell is important and what it can do for you, I think of two things. One, I think of our advisory committee. We have a number of industry experts that meet with us once a semester. They kind of look at our program and tell us what directions we should take the program. And they've unanimously said you need to go and include PowerShell in your curriculum. So here I am, and here you are learning about PowerShell. They're also extremely excited about cloud. So there you go. This class was created in response to what our advisory committee advised us to do. And then a quick story. I had a speaker come into my class about probably 2 years ago now, and he was a consultant for a company in Milwaukee here, and he had a 6-month contract where he worked for Barnes & Noble to help automate how they set up their stores. Prior to him coming in, when a new store was opened up, or if there's some new release of whatever software or whatever, they'd ship a couple servers to the store, and they had a huge binder that one of the employees would walk through and essentially configure Active Directory to support this in the Active Directory in the store software to support the store. It was a couple-day process, and Barnes & Noble's policy was if you made one mistake along the way, they wanted you to basically erase everything and start over again. So it took a lot of time, and I guess when Barnes & Noble did have the problem of opening up a bunch of new stores, it was a big expense. I don't know if Barnes & Noble has that problem anymore. But anyways, so the consultant came in, and he was able to. It took him 6 months, but he wrote a series of PowerShell scripts, and he was able to take that entire process of setting up a store and bring it from 2 or 3 days down to a couple hours. Huge savings, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So PowerShell is fantastic. It allows people to replace the mouse, the GUI, point and click type stuff, to a script that is much more repeatable, a lot easier to document, etc. So with that said, let's just kind of dig into more of the syllabus and the assignments and see where we're going this semester. I think I have the syllabus already open. Let's see here. Here's the syllabus. So you have, the assumption here is that you are in our accelerated online program. If you are not an AAON student, you should drop the class. This is for students in our Network Specialist Accelerated Online program, unless there's some incredibly special case that you can't take, whatever. So contact Tony or I if you are not an AAON student. Tony, pretty much with Tony, if you shoot him an email, he'll meet with you online whenever. I have my office hours posted on my website. You can shoot me an email as well. I haven't updated it for the spring semester yet, but it should be pretty similar to what you see here. I've kind of gone over the course information already. It's an online class. Here are the resources that we have. You saw those in the announcements as well. The book, and sometimes I'm having a senior moment right now. I recorded part of the screencast and I started over again, and I can't remember if I said this, 5 minutes ago or 25 minutes ago. But anyways, we're using Learn PowerShell in a month of lunches for the cloud piece of the course, and then Tony is using these two resources here for the cloud, or whatever, for his half the course. The book, you can find it on Amazon. You can find it in our bookstore. You can actually find it on eBay. I bought the book and they sent me a PDF of it as well, so I have a PDF I just leave on my desktop, and I can't share it with you because it is licensed to Pat Fader. They put my name on it when I bought the book, so some people aren't as cautious as I am, and they've just uploaded theirs out on the internet. Maybe you can find one if you want an electronic copy, but anyways, here's our book. And the book is designed to be learned, over a series of about a month or so. The thought being you'd learn do one chapter a day. And you definitely couldn't learn it over a lunch break, each of these chapters. But, again, if you a couple hours a day, you could work your way through the whole book. Some chapters take a lot more time than others. The point is, it's very doable. One of the things I've learned about PowerShell, it's kind of like learning a foreign language. You can't learn it all in one day. You do need to work at it, over a period of time. So I will be a stickler with due dates this semester, and it's not because I like being a stickler. It's because I found that it's best for the students to keep them on task. I can't tell you how many times in the past, 2 or 3 or 4 times, where I've had students that have kind of like blown it off to the end of the semester, and they come in, they're like, Pat, I don't understand PowerShell. And at that point, it's a problem I can't solve, because you can't sit in a couple hours or an afternoon or a day and work through the whole book. It really does take time, and you need to work on it a little bit every week. Over the semester, you'll do fine. We're going to cover about half the book, so chapters 1 through 14 about. And my thought is, at the end of the semester, if you want to keep going with it, just keep on going. You'll have all the tools you'll need to complete the book. Okay. Back to our syllabus. Here, let's just take a look at the grading real quick, then we'll look at the course outline. Yeah. So, from a grading perspective, the PowerShell makes up about 60% of your grade, and then Tony's piece, the cloud, makes up about 40%. What Tony has you doing is just working through, reading a PDF and working through, basically you're going to read a PDF, you're going to take an online test in Blackboard, and then you're also going to work through this Udemy course and get a badge. And once you've earned the badge, you're going to send Tony a copy of that, and that's what you're going to do for the cloud piece. What I have is, you're going to do the labs pretty much at the end of each chapter. We'll look at those in a little bit. I have a final exam that I've written, and I have a couple other labs that you're going to do as well. So there's a little bit more in the PowerShell side of the program here. Let's take a look at the syllabus here. All right, so the first week, I'm expecting that you'll read through chapters 1 and 2. I did list some additional resources here. That a lot of these videos that I have were recorded by the author of your book, and they're like 2 or 3 minute little clips. And I would recommend that you watch these little additional resource videos first, and then go and read the book. Again, it's like 5 minutes to watch these two for this week. So you're going to read chapters 1 and 2, and if we look at the due dates down here, by February 11th, you're going to have done this PowerShell lab, which you'll see in a second, as well as essentially completed the labs associated with chapters 1 and 2. So I'll definitely talk about those in a bit. So you also can see that we're kind of ping-ponging back and forth. It's like PowerShell 1 week, cloud, PowerShell, cloud. So on February 9th, you're going to cover chapters, you're going to start working on chapters 3 and 4. And if we jump down 2 weeks later, that would mean by March 3rd, chapters 3 and 4 need to be done. So, and again, you can tell that each week for the PowerShell content, if I found some good stuff online, I'm posting it. Typically all these that end with this .mov or MP4, these are all videos from the author. I love, if you really want to see some cool stuff, well, I'll talk about it later. No, I shouldn't end like that. This is a great video I found of somebody that just has a bunch of free online PowerShell training, and I loved his video. I think it would be appropriate to watch after the second, after about chapters 3 or 4. All right. So I've been kind of just talking about due dates and chapters and stuff. Let's actually look at these activities and what's involved with getting your work done for chapters 1 and 2. So my assumption is that you're all going to read over the next couple of weeks chapters 1 and 2 out of the book. And you'll notice at the end of each chapter, keep going, here we go, chapter 1. Actually take a look at some of this content leading up to it. Normally I always skip all this and I just kind of jump right into the chapter in a book, but I take a look at the beginning of the book as well. So you're going to read chapters 1 and 2, and at the end of most chapters, I think the first couple chapters are typically not always the case, but at the end of the chapters, of course, now it's making me a liar. We'll look at the end of chapter 2 here. Here we go. Come on, Pat. Yeah. At the end of most chapters, except chapter 1, there's some lab activities. And I've taken these lab activities and I've modified them, and you'll see that. And I have you doing my modified lab activities. From chapter 3 on is actually better. Let's go to the end of chapter 3 as an example. So at the end of chapter 3, lab. All right. Run, update, help. Do this. They have a whole bunch of things for you to do. So I've essentially taken what the author said you should do and I've modified it, and you'll see the document that I have that has that. And as you go through these activities, you'll do screenshots. So this will all be completely clear, I promise, in about 5 minutes. So far we've looked at the book. You're reading 2 chapters at a time every other week, and you'll be doing some labs. There's some labs written associated with each chapter in the book. Good. Okay. So if we're looking at the syllabus, I've kind of talked about this piece of it. Chapters 1 and 2 are due. Now I'm going to look at this PS Share Lab, and this document that you're going to create is going to have screenshots proving that you did the activities at the end of the chapter. So let's take a look at that real quick. So let me go into Blackboard. Let me look at the assignments. PS Share Lab. Okay. Create a copy of this document. So this is just like our server class that you had with me. You're going to take the document. You're going to make a copy of it. You're going to name it Faders Labs. Good. And then once you have that document created, you can start updating it. Pat Fader, you get the idea. I have a note about doing the labs. We're going to use the VMs from ITNET 112. You can get them from this link here. If you should already have them though, because you had me for server 1 and 2. And after you've read chapter 1 out of your book, you're going to come to open this document up, and you're going to see what we have going on here. Okay, so chapter 1, configure your domain controller to the snapshots OU's created. That's the thing that messes up a lot of students. Here's your login credentials. You don't need internet access for this chapter 1 stuff. If you do, I have a little note in here. Basically, the easiest thing to do is just to add a second network adapter to your virtual machine and assign that second network adapter or configure it as NAT. That will send that second NIC will be then connected to the internet through your host computer, and you'll be able to access the internet. All right. Turn my phone off. There we go. There wasn't a ton of content in chapter 1, so I just found some additional information for you to read. I found some information about version, figuring out the version of PowerShell, and I just basically want you to figure out on your virtual machines what the version is. And it looks like I even I told you how to do it. So let's just try this once. And I'll need a virtual machine. Here we go. So this is server 1. It's a domain controller, and let me just log into it. God darn it. So I got some new knives for Christmas, like super sharp, ridiculously sharp, and I'm currently typing with a band-aid on one of my fingers. They're sharper than I thought they were. So here I've got server 2016 launched, and I want to launch PowerShell. It's built into server. And I'll just start typing in PowerShell, and the first thing I want to point out is there's actually 4 versions of PowerShell here. PowerShell, PowerShell x86, and then this PowerShell ISE, which stands for Integrated Scripting Environment, and then x86. So the x86, what that means in the IT world is that it's a 32-bit application. That refers to a really old microprocessor architecture that was 32-bit. That was a 32-bit processor. Nowadays we have 64-bit processors. So don't run the x86 versions unless there's some specific specific instructions or reasons that you have to. Perhaps it's a really old command you're trying to use that only is supported in a 32-bit environment. I can't think of any, but yeah, that could occur, I guess. So I'm going to launch them both. The authors kind of like you to run PowerShell out of this like console-like environment, and I much prefer using the integrated scripting environment. They both do the same thing. At the end of the day, they both allows you to run PowerShell commands. But what I like about the ISE here, incidentally, this little arrow right here, hide script pane, sometimes when you launch it, it looks like this, and students are like, Pat, they look identical. Well, let's hit this little script pane here. Good. What I can do in the ISE is put all my commands here, and then once I have them all typed in, I can just hit the run button and run them all, which I like. There's other advantages to this as well. In the console, you just have to type in one command at a time. Enter, enter, enter. So I like this because I can copy and paste material from other places into this environment here, run it. It's super easy to save the commands. It's like basically I can save my work, so I can come back later and work on a script. So this is Pat Fader's favorite. Oh, and also, if you look up on the top here, it shows us that we're running as an administrator. If for some reason you are on a Windows 10 client doing these activities, which you could do, and when it comes to launching PowerShell, what you'd want to do, either the ISE or just the PowerShell console or app, I guess, right-click on it and say Run as Administrator. A lot of the commands in your book assume that you have administrator privileges. So, and if you don't on a client, if you don't run it as administrator, some of the commands won't work. So I hope that makes sense. All right, let's take a look at the lab now. All right, so I actually gave it a command, PowerShell versions. You can verify the version of PowerShell by completing the following. Okay, so launch PowerShell. I can just type this first. Let's just try get host. So I'm just did a copy, and we'll go back to my virtual machine. Paste. I can run it. All right. Looks to me like I'm running PowerShell version 5.1. We're somewhere, well, I can't remember off the top of my head what the latest version of PowerShell is, but it's definitely higher than that. All right, it looks like I just Googled it real quick. It looks like version 5.1 is what we have in Server 2016. There's also this PowerShell Core 6.0 and 6.1 that are supported in Server 2016 and 2019. These, I guess it's just worth noting that, so this is a newer version of PowerShell. It runs alongside PowerShell version 5.1. And these versions actually will work on other operating systems as well. Like you can tell here that it runs on Macs, Linux, on and on and on and on. So this is super interesting. Raspbian. So I believe that's the version that runs on the Raspberry Pis, I think. So we could actually run PowerShell on a Raspberry Pi. That sounds kind of fun to try sometime. Anyways, here you go. Let's get back to the activity. So I ran the command, version 5.1, so I could go back to my lab and I would go back to my lab, add a screenshot right here showing that I had version 5.1. On a Mac, I just used this Snagit program. You could, I'm not going to do it now because I'm currently using this, but essentially I would just take a screenshot of this and paste it in that lab document, just like the server labs. Okay. I'll teach you something real quick. Give me a second here. So I can run get host, or I can also run this get host. I got this weird like symbol, the pipe symbol. It's kind of like on my keyboard right above the return key. And one of the powerful things about PowerShell is being able to take the output of one command and send it off to another. So I could have one command that returns all the Active Directory users in my environment, all 40,000 of them. The next command, I could pipe it into another command that would say, you know what, filter that down and only let the users that are students in IT Network Specialist program move on down the line. So I could kind of like filter things as it goes. So in this case, I'm taking the output of the get host command, all of this junk here, and I'm saying, you know what, with the select object command, I want you to only let the parts of the output go. I'm totally using the wrong verbiage here. I'm just trying to keep it simple. But I only want you to allow the version information right here to pass through. So when I run line 2 here, if I don't want to run a specific line, I just get my cursor on it and I hit this button right here, run selection. So there, get host returned a whole bunch of information. Select object kind of pared it down and says, you know what, I just want you to return the version information. Or maybe I could modify that a little bit more. I'm getting ahead of myself, but maybe I want to output just the version and the name. There we go. So it's version 5.1. The name is PowerShell ISC host. Good enough. Point is, after all this, is you're running our virtual machines. You're remembering to always set to the appropriate snapshot, and you're adding screenshots as indicated. Okay. I changed this a little bit, but PowerShell is based on this .NET framework, and there are different versions of the .NET framework out there. You can manually, and you can read up on this a little bit. You can manually, update the .NET framework, but actually now Microsoft takes care of that for you. So this is just something so you can, when your book's talking about the .NET framework, if you want to get some more information to make it a little more clear, you can do that. I gave you a command here. Let me just copy that. That allows us to figure out what version of the .NET framework I'm currently running. So, PowerShell, when it came out like 6-7 years ago, whatever it was, I think it's version 1. We've since moved up to version 6. So there's been a lot of updates along the way, and typically when you do an update, you have to update your .NET frameworks. That's why this is kind of important. Before you can update your PowerShell, you needed to update the .NET framework. This command here that I ran, that I copied, I can run that in our VM. You can see why I like the ISC here. I just paste it in there. And I can just run this one line. And it returns, this actually went and accessed something out of our registry. You've learned about the registry in previous classes. And you can kind of see this whole piping symbol that we'll talk much more about this later, but I'm taking the output of one command and I'm piping it or sending it to another command. And it's just displaying the, I guess the release value here. It's 394.802. This is totally kludgy, but that's just the way it is with this thing. And you can use this chart here to figure out, oh yeah, I'm running the .NET framework 4.6.2. If this VM was connected to the internet and I did like a Windows update, the .NET framework would be updated. I think the latest version is 4.8. All right. So, oops, I guess I gave you the answer here. What is the latest version of the .NET framework that can be installed on our servers? You can Google it, but pretty sure it's 4.8. 4.8. All right. I found a great screencast that'll hopefully get you really excited about PowerShell. It's about a half hour long or so, and just like the title implies, 30 common tasks that that you're used to doing in the GUI that can be done faster in PowerShell. So watch this person's screencast. Then I want you to just basically do 5 of those commands and give me a screenshot of showing you, show me what your the output or how the command is used. So maybe one of them that you see that you like is it returns the IP information on on one of your machines. So I think it's a get net IP address. We'll try that one. All right. Oops. I had an extra little key in there. All right, so that returns the IP information on my machine. Good enough? So that might be one of them. Just take a screenshot. I'm not super, like, sometimes students think I'm trying to deduct points. Just, if you give me a screenshot showing that you did the command, I'm not going to worry about the formatting. I'm not going to worry, Pat, do I need to include the command as well as the output? If it's normally it's not that important, but if it's important to you, I could grab a screenshot of this area right here if I wanted to. All right, so this is the PowerShell lab document. You're going to make a copy of it like I did, and then you're going to add screenshots to it throughout the semester. There weren't any really exciting labs in Chapter 2, so after you read Chapter 2, just kind of come here and see what your work is. And I think what I did for this one's kind of fun. Just I found some online script. The beauty of PowerShell is there's so many shared resources out there. But I found the script. Just run it. There it is. Now, if you want to run a selection of script, you can just highlight it, and I can run it like this. So I like this. It just kind of cracked me up. So basically, this guy worked at a company where when he walked away from his computer, security measures, basically, if there isn't any activity on your system, it would lock the system. He got sick of going, if he was running some application that got messed up when the system went and got locked, I guess it was frustrating. So he wrote this little script that opens up Notepad and just every second sends an exclamation key to the Notepad document. So that way, he can let this thing run. He can maybe let it run for an hour, and his machine wouldn't lock. So, anyways, I just thought that was kind of fun. I don't want to walk through what all these commands do at this point in the course, but I just wanted to show you what somebody had done with PowerShell, which would make a lot of security people cringe, I'm sure, because there's a reason that your computer locks when you're not working on it. All right, let's go back to the syllabus in Blackboard. All right. So I do have this note: when you do the PowerShell lab, you make a copy of your document, you rename it, blah 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 blah. You share it with Pat Fader, and then I want you to submit a link to your document in this Google form here. So you put your name in, and it looks like I need to. Well, it looks pretty good. You fill this out, you add your link to your document here, and you hit the submit button. So I like that because, here, let me just show you. I'm going to pause this and open this up from last semester here. 1 second. So this is what a student submitted last semester, and what I don't want to open it up because I'll display student names, but when you submit that form, it goes into a spreadsheet, and then I can open that spreadsheet up, and I can look at all of the previously submitted PowerShell labs from since the dawn of time. So I have one spreadsheet I can go to that I can open up all of the students' PowerShell labs, at least for the semester or since I started teaching the class for that matter. But if we look at this student's activities, you can tell he went through, did an activity, took a screenshot, went through, did an activity, took a screenshot. So when he was when he was all done, he had about a 40 or 50 page document. That's a great screenshot. So his screenshot shows the script, it shows the output, and it kind of shows a little bit what happened there. Okay? So that's the PowerShell lab piece. And we'll talk more about this email address assignment and final later. The final is not done yet. I'm still working on it. But I've kind of changed how I teach the PowerShell class. I used to have a few more activities that students would do throughout the semester, and I didn't have a very comprehensive final. I didn't like the final. It was just too it's a bunch of random questions, and it just didn't really seem like it was testing your knowledge of the material that well. So I wrote a new final, and most of you should be in my capstone project class. So the final has you doing a lot of what's done in the capstone project in PowerShell. And I've created a whole ton of screencasts and all kinds of stuff. I'll make a separate screencast on the final exam itself, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign various questions out of the final to you throughout the semester. So maybe once you can finish chapters 3 and 4, I'm going to say, you know what, this week work on chapter 1 from your final exam. So you're going to do the same process, and you can do it with a partner, make a copy of the document, do whatever it's called out for and add a screenshot to it. And by doing that, it's going to reinforce what you're learning that week in the semester and that week in the course. And I think you'll learn a lot by doing this. You'll see in a very practical way how PowerShell can be used to manage a networked environment. So that's the final exam. I'm not going to wait till the end to assign it, but I'll wait till we're in about a month, and then I'll start assigning little pieces of it out to you. So by the time we get to the end of the semester, you'll have 75% of the final exam done. You can tell I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. This is just an idea I had over break. All right. Well, that was 35 minutes. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this screencast. I hope I covered, I hope I did an okay job. I hope that you feel comfortable in knowing what the expectations are. If I had to summarize, real quickly what you have to do for the next couple weeks, you're going to do this PS Share Lab activity, following the steps here, and you are going to read chapters 1 and 2 out of your book, and then add the appropriate screenshots for chapters 1 and 2 to your lab document. As indicated in the syllabus, wherever that is, I expect both of those activities to be done by February 11th. So this one, I will look at that spreadsheet and verify that you've submitted a link to your lab document. And this is your actual lab document, and I'll verify that you have screenshots in there for chapters 1 and 2. Okay? I'm going to be a stickler about late work because as I mentioned at the beginning of the screencast, PowerShell is one of those subjects that you need to learn over a long period of time. You just can't jam it all into a week or something like that. How do I know that? Because I've seen students try it and they've failed. So anyways, I'm very accessible. If you need to get together, let me know. We could always do like a Google Hangout or like a Zoom meeting or something like that. And I hope that you learn a lot this semester. Looking forward to working with you, and have a great day.